Hello my pokey people and welcome one and all to Pokemon Sun and Moon trailer in-depth analysis. We are going to go so deep that I will tell you the very meaning of the Pikachu plushie in the protagonist's bedroom. Clearly it signifies a longing attachment to his childhood when he used to play it and his refusal to let go and move to the new Alola region with his mother. That's my English literature teacher impression, but now let's analyze ourselves a trailer. So the bedroom itself doesn't really tell us much of value, just that it's got the usual Nintendo console shout out in there, but apart from that we're kinda good. Interestingly, the globe is the real world maps. That doesn't tell us anything about the Pokemon world, so yeah, not much. Let's move on. Kukui then is next introduced, and he is your cousin, who obviously already lives in this region and is now showing you the ropes as you've just moved here. The reason I know that the story follows you and your mum moving to the region is because the live-action Japanese trailer is literally mirroring what you do in the game. You move to this new region and make new friends and experience new things, and that's very cool. They got a very good trailer, much better than our English ones. So he's Kukui and he's "Welcome to paradise, cousin! You want to go bowling?" and announces that it's the Alola region, and that coupled with the fact that the live-action trailer literally has them move to Hawaii confirms that we are heading to a Hawaii-based region. Then we see the protagonist run up a hill past a random person hiding in a bush, because that's not creepy, and this gives us a cool few things. Number one, the tropical scenery is lovely. The region's going to be very, very cool to explore. Two, waterfall in the background. We'll probably end up there, probably need waterfall. Maybe HMs are unchanged, maybe we still need a HM slave, which is very, very sad. I really hope we don't. But the biggest deal here is that the protagonist looks the most human proportioned actual real human that we've ever had, and that's very exciting. So maybe we are getting a really much more advanced take on a Pokemon journey. And then another thing supporting that is the camera angle going on here. It's very much not the usual top-down watching the character move along a flat plane. Round places, we're going uphill, the camera's moving cinematically with us, so unless this is a one-off moment, it will imply that we're getting a much more, I suppose, dynamic journey through the region, and that really excites me because it has good story implications too. Then we meet Professor Haller, who is showing us our starter Pokemon, and yes, Haller is based off a tree that you can find in Hawaii, so the theme continues, and he offers us our choice. He looks pretty cool himself. He's probably quite jolly and knows his thing. I don't know what his specialty will be, but it will be exciting to find out. And then we have our adorable trio of options, or at least mostly adorable, let's say. So then we begin with the little ball of feathers, the Rowlet, and he is just adorable. I love him. I have to say that I do. I'm firmly in Team Rowlet right now, but Lytton's not far behind. Either way, he is quite the round little starter, and it does worry me that he might keep that as he evolves and end up quite a goofy looking round ball of an owl, which wouldn't be that good, honestly. I mean, I love the detail of him looking round in battle. In fact, every starter seems to have some very detailed idle animations, which makes me very happy. In fact, just generally, it seems they've put a lot more detail into the battles themselves. No more little circles the Pokemon are stood on, a much more impressive environment, the trainers being there. They seem a lot more immersive, the battle experiences, from what we can see in the trailer, and that is a very exciting and promising thing. But to Rowlet specifically then, let's hope that he doesn't end up Goofy Ball Owl, and in that case, there's two ways I can see that him going, because there's no real signifiers as to which species of owl he's based on, but we do know that he's very good with his feet, which kind of makes me think maybe burrowing owl, which would end up with him being grass ground. I think that would be kind of a curveball and honestly really cool. But then we can go the more cliched, obvious route of the old wise owl with long long white eyebrows and beard, the kind of sensei owl, maybe throw in a psychic type and call it a day. Granted, you know, they could just go the super obvious, leave it grass flying, have a full-on predator looking bird of prey, but I doubt they'll do that. I think it'll be a lot more interesting than that. So other than those, there's not much to go on with how he looks apart from how cute he is. He is, a little interesting fact, the lightest starter Pokemon out of them all. So there you go, guys. That's something you needed to know. Moving on to Lytton then. Obviously, black and red, good color scheme, because, you know, not that I'm partial to black and red or anything, and it's a very interesting cat. So, initially, it's very easy to see Fire Dark becomes a very almost panther-like predator, looks badass, it's a pretty chill, or should I say hot starter Pokemon, but what it does is it produces oil in its fur that is flammable, and that's how it forms fireballs and uses fire attacks. So if it takes the oil theme a little bit more, we could have a fire poison starter. Wouldn't that be really, really cool? And when it sheds, all of its fur burns off in a blaze. So maybe they take that aspect and we have like a naked fire cat, like Dr. Evil's got all up in here. That would be neat as well. But apart from that, again, not much we can say. And then we go to the very unfortunate Seal, who honestly definitely got the short end of the stick. I mean, he is cute in his own way, and he does have a bunch of personalities, kind of superior swagger almost that Oshawott had in the anime. And a lot of people do like him, but he's definitely the least favorite of the three in the general sense. I mean, I'm not a fan. He either becomes a Walrein-like water ice, which is kind of lame, stays a clown seal in his third form, looks really goofy and is pure water, which also kind of sucks, or he becomes something radical, like Water Fairy, maybe, because fairies like to play games and have fun, which is kind of synonymous with the circus, so maybe you could make that work, but I really... you know, I'm really not sure. I mean, what it can do is it can use bubbles that are quite elastic, and it uses these to do stunts and jumps. So maybe if Rowlet loses flying, we could have a water flying starter. That could be very cool. I mean, he's obviously based on a sea lion, but apart from that, there's not much to say about our little... Poplio over here. So moving on then to the rest of the trailer, we end up with some pretty interesting things. We get the world map, or at least the map of the starting island, because I don't believe this will be the full thing, unless it's really poorly scaled. At best, there is two towns here. One where the professor and presumably you move into, and two, the big city. So surely there's got to be other places. I mean, we see caves, we see surfing routes, please no Zubat, we see a crater which is clearly based off the famous Hawaii one. It looks very well laid out, and it looks like it's using water a lot better than Hoenn, which I'm sure is a big relief to a lot of people. But apart from that, not a crazy amount going on here. If I had to guess, I'd say there's probably 3 islands of about this size that would make up the region. That would be kind of cool, and maybe you don't surf between them. Maybe you actually take a proper ferry, a boat, or there's some other more story-based reason for you traveling around the place instead of just, come on, my surf slave, let's go! So then we see our protagonist again with, again, very cool and a lot more dynamic camera angles, a lot more interesting than the usual, and we're going uphill very obviously. I think they're going to use up and down terrain and different camera angles to let us experience traveling through a region in a whole new way, and the trailer really seems to reinforce that, and that is very exciting. Obvious more Hawaii themes with the painted rocks, and we are clearly heading up the steps towards the village that has the Pokemon Professor in, which is above the city in the kind of island map, because you end up curving round to the right and seeing the steps, and you can kind of just make that out on the big map. And then you see an image of your mother in this game in the yellow skirt waiting for you at the balcony in that village. That makes sense. Very, very nice. Then we get a lovely shot of the city, and you do see kind of like a portside place, which perhaps is indeed where you get the boats. And there's not that many buildings here, no obvious gyms or anything from from what I can see. It just looks kinda busy. A smattering of cars, but not actually as many as we were led to believe with the focus on cars in the initial teaser announcement for the game. So maybe there's not as many as we think. I mean, there's certainly no Blastoise fire trucks, but we shall see. No obvious establishments that I can make out that would be of note. Then we get a lovely sweeping shot of the professor's lab, which is clearly at the back, the most impressive building, the almost battle arena where we see the starters. Someone, of course, standing outside the professor's house as if to be like, no, you've got to go do a mini quest before you speak to him. Come on now, this is Pokemon. A lovely night shot seeing the female protagonist running at least her base non-customized form. Not much else crazy going on here, though it does look like something might be happening with the sea, because there is something nondescript under the waves that the NPC over there seems to be looking at. We can't really tell what it is, but it might end up being reasonably important, because they generally don't render things under the waves like this unless it's there for a reason. Then we see what will either be one of our goofy friends or our rival. Very laid back, happy-go-lucky type person. You know the personality type for one of your friends in a Pokemon game. It makes sense. And again, more lovely Hawaii scenery in the background. Back to the professor's lab then, and just a little bit of a montage of the starters. Nothing crazy we learn here, apart from the fact that there is a cave leading into the mountain from the lab area between two big trees, which may be how you start your journey properly and you eventually loop back round to the big city. I have a theory that it won't be as linear as normal Pokemon games. I think there might be a lot more open-endedness to him, but that might be just me being hopeful more than anything. And then finally, our legendaries. And apart from looking badass, we see that they both have space themes. You can see the space on the lion's head in Lunalala's wings, and the actual building that they're in front of looks like a massive ruin complex built into the mountainside, and we can see the logos for Sun and Moon there, so maybe they are actually going to be in game with a lot deeper meaning and symbolism, and they are really dominating this cliffside. Maybe this is where you have the final encounter with the evil team. Maybe they're excavating for these Pokemon, looking for something. It does look like a big ruined structure built into the mountainside, and probably going to be very nice to explore. So that's very, very cool. And then we get Lunalala making the moon shape with the wings and firing a big blast, and it does look like her signature move. And then, of course, Solgaleo doesn't really do much. He just kind of chills and roars, which is pretty cool for him, honestly. I mean, it's not bad. And we get the lower angle of the complex with his shot, and we get a little bit of grass and green there, which maybe it's still in kind of a tropical area. I mean, this certainly isn't on the island shot that we saw, so that does reinforce the more than one islands that we'll be visiting. So there you go. That's pretty much all we get from the English trailer, but that is not the end of it, because the Japanese one gives us a little bit more information. Not massive amounts, but when the kid is introducing himself to his new classmates, in the background, you can see up top above the teacher 8 shadowed silhouettes of, well, people, figures, and you can see 4 of their names, and while it might not be, is this possibly a hint at the 8 gym leaders? Is this who they are? In which case, that's pretty damn cool, isn't it? You know, that's a nice little touch and a way of very subtly showing them off. So we have Caitlin, we have Pablo, we have Hoku, and we have Ed, which don't really give us much in the way of type suggestions. There's not much we can take from that. I guess the easiest one is maybe Hoku is fighting. I could kind of see that, but there's not really much else. Alright, so next up we can see that characters in-game will be communicating via video calls, which is really nice to have that, and that there will be customization a la X and Y, which again, really nice to have that, but not much else. You see him bond with his new friends over their love of Pokemon, you see them choose their starters, and the actual specific starter choice screen, which doesn't give us that much information past the fire, water, and grass Pokemon. Pokemon, which, you know, we kind of already knew. Then we do have a very sort of, hey, Savenya, Badabarichido, hey, oh. That was the worst butchery of Lion King I think anyone has ever heard. But either way, we have a true Simba moment as we lift our new friend above our head, which, even if it's just this once, does show that they are going a lot more in depth with you and your bond with your Pokemon, and making it feel a lot more personal than just, I've picked up a Pokeball, this is my starter, yay! Because your starter's supposed to mean a lot to you, you know? And then finally we get a little bit of a quick flash montage of other things. We see him in his room, a little bit more of it, not much, walking up the hill again, the night time, but the very interesting thing, and honestly one of the most depressing things in the entire trailer, I hate this, we see him downstairs with his cousin and his mum, and a Meowth in the background. I've got nothing against Meowth, but it's what this Meowth implies that makes me really, really sad and kind of like, no, please, no. If there's a Meowth there, it implies one of two things. The family brought a Meowth with them from their home region to move to Alola, or Meowth's a native to Alola, in which case we're not getting a new 150 Pokemon, we're having a gen where we only get about 80 or so new ones, like Sinnoh, like Kalos, and then the rest are filled out with old Pokemon, which would suck, because I think we all want a brand new 150, so I'm really hoping they just brought Meowth with them when they moved, and that it's not native to the region, because that would be just, aww. And really, that's it. That's as much as I can glean from about 20 rewatches of both trailers. I mean, at least we now have a lot more to theorize on for when we do our next theory videos. But yeah, let me know if you think I've missed anything, and obviously give me some discussion feedback on the stuff that we have talked about, and it's all good. Like if you've enjoyed this, subscribe for more, and I'll see you next time. Oh, goodbye.